Communication is really important in a relationship. In order for a relationship to be healthy, to be abundant, to be prosperous, to be long living, you really have to have communication. And it has to be effective and healthy communication, not just any communication. So today I'm going to talk about 7 ways to effectively communicate with your partner. Stay tuned. You know, so many times with my clients, I hear people say, oh my God, we don't talk anymore. We're not communicating effectively. I can't get him or her to listen to me. They don't listen to what I'm really saying. They don't understand me. Any of these things sound familiar to you? Well, these and many more statements are being made by couples and individuals all over the place because they're not effectively communicating. So I'm going to talk today about how to effectively communicate with your partner so that you both can feel like you are being heard and it's not a one-way sided thing. So the very first thing I want to talk about is making sure that you understand your partner. In order to understand your partner, you want to make sure that you're respecting each other's space, each other's boundaries, and each other's voice. When you learn to respect each other's voice, then you will listen. You won't be so quick to try to, well, let me wait for a pause for me to get my word in, or I'm trying to make my point, or who's wrong or who's right. You will then understand that each individual parts of the couple have their own voice, have their own way of thinking about things, have their own idea of how things should go. And in order to really understand each other, you must respect that their view may not be your view. Accept your partner for who they are and not who you really want them to be. Don't look at the potential of who they are. Look at who they are and deal with exactly that. The second thing you want to do is know that there is no such thing as too much communication. You can never overtalk a situation. You can never talk about it too long. It can never be where you feel like we're over that. If your partner is not in a place where they feel closure for the situation, then you may still have to keep talking about it. And it doesn't mean if you're the partner that hasn't gotten the closure that you belittle that person or you badger them or you interrogate them. It has to be a two-way communication where you're both sharing and not putting off your belief systems and what the other partner should be thinking. You want to make sure that you're communicating and it's not arguing, it's not yelling at each other, it's not pushing on each other, it's not doing any of those things but communicating. Remember, communication is a two-way street, it is a two-way dialogue between two individuals that are sharing their own view on a particular situation, attempting to get to a resolve. And sometimes a resolve is not resolving it at all. The other part to communicating that where you cannot communicate too much is making sure that you're not just talking about issues, but you're also just reaching out just to say, I love you, reaching out just to say hello, reaching out just to say, how is your day going? You know, you don't want to only communicate when issues arise. You want to be communicating with your partner in such a way that's going to make them draw to you, make them want to talk to you, make them want to open up to you. And if it's always an issue, then they're not going to want to communicate with you. And then that's where the communication then really dies out. The third way to be able to effectively communicate with your partner is to learn how to effectively win an argument. Now, that may sound like, oh my God, good, now I can learn how to win finally in this argument. Well, part of winning an argument is not winning at all. Not worrying about who won, who's right, who's wrong. It's not worrying about that at all. The whole part of winning an argument is that you all walk away from the situation still intact. Because many times people break up over arguments when it really is not even that big. And they're not taking into account that we have two different views and it's not about us winning. Because when you lose, then your partner loses. If your partner loses, then you lose. So there's never going to be who won, I won. No, if you both don't win, you both lose. If you both lose, you both don't win. When you get that type of attitude in your mindset, then you worry about making sure that you're communicating and not winning. The fourth thing you want to do is not complicate the small things. Don't sweat over the little things. Make sure that you're not blowing up these little small situations into these large, big blowout arguments, and then you have to go back and apologize for them. Now, there's nothing wrong with apologizing, but there should never be an argument that started out as something so small as, what time are you coming home? And they don't come home when they say they're going to come home, and then it turns into this, and remember you did this, and remember you did that, and this is what you keep doing. Because when you turn on your partner instead of turning towards your partner, then you're accusing them. This gets really big and it blows out of proportion, and the next thing you know, you're trying to figure out how to move out of the house. Those are the types of arguments that you don't want to get in. That is not effective. It is not effective for your relationship and for your family as a whole, depending on what your situation is. You want to make sure that when you are having a disagreement, that the disagreement stays focused on exactly what that disagreement is and not bringing out anything outside of that particular situation. Because when you do that, then you learn how to really effectively argue and communicate, because we're human. You're going to argue with your partner. There's not going to ever be a time where you're going to always be peaceful. There's going to be times when you're going to combat each other's thoughts and your actions. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that every argument isn't for breakup. The most important thing that you want to leave with after you have an argument is, I still love him, or I still love her. The fifth thing you want to do is never assume. You know, they say that when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, right? You don't want to assume. You want to always ask questions and believe what your partner is saying. When you don't believe your partner, that goes to them like, you don't trust me. When you don't trust your partner, they don't feel like you trust them, then that keeps them from opening up, and that keeps you not trusting. When you assume and you're always putting off on them what you think that that's happening versus you asking them and taking their word for it, then it brings up a bigger problem, and it usually looks like insecurity. So you have to make sure that you're not pouring out your own internal fight into the argument or into the situation with your partner that is going to spill over and make a big mess. You want to deal with your internal fight so that you're not pushing it out into your relationship and causing bigger problems than it really is. Usually assumptions come in based off of your past experiences. And I always talk about experiences. Experiences, they start and they end. When you take a past experience into a new experience, you're diluting the experience. You want to make sure that that experience stays and experience in the present, because past experiences are over. Doesn't matter how much they linger on the inside of you, they're still over. And when you keep bringing them into your present, they never become your past. Keep the assumptions out of the relationship, ask questions, and be open to the answers that you're going to be given. Sixth way is, don't expect your partner to react the way that you think that they should react. Do know that your partner is an adult. Your partner is an individual. They have their own thoughts. They have their own mind. They have their own upbringing. They have their own individual way of doing things. And that is what drew you to them in the first place. Generally, we attract ourselves to people, and then when they don't respond the way that we want them to respond, then we get upset about that. If we're attracting somebody that's opposite of us, then we're attracting ourselves to them because of who they are. Otherwise, we'd be dating ourselves, right? And we don't want to date ourselves. Otherwise, we'd just be by ourselves. We won't be with anybody else. So if you want to have this individual in your life, allow them to be an individual. Allow them to be who they are. Accept them for who they are, and don't try to put off what you think that they should respond to and how they should respond by being pushy with that. Make sure you allow them to be themselves, allow them to respond the way that they are going to respond, and you either accept it or reject it. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't have to accept everything somebody says or does. I'm not saying that you do, but you have to make sure that you're not trying to get them to do things the way that you want them to do it. Allow them to be who they are, and most times, most times than not, when you get to a place where you're allowing that person to be who they are, you will find that you love them so much more, and then they can ultimately love you more as well. Lastly, number 7, you want to express your needs and your desires to your partner. Now, sometimes we can put that off and it sounds like we're nagging, or it sounds like we're consistently bugging, or we're worrying our partner, we're telling them what we need. Now, it's a difference in how you do that. You can tell your partner what you're in need of, what you need from the very start, and sometimes in between, exactly what your needs and your desires are, without you badgering them, without you getting upset, without you making it seem like you're being in attack mode. When you begin to share with your partner in a nice setting, you could be sitting there watching television, or decide just to sit on the floor and lay and just talk about your needs. Remember, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And when you begin to start to effectively communicate, you communicate with strategy and not with emotion. It's nothing wrong with sharing your feelings. It's not about you sharing your feelings, because we were created with feelings. It's about how you share the emotions of those feelings. And when you start to react versus respond, you're being emotional. And most people do not respond to emotions. They find it to be off-putting. So when you are an emotional person and you're not just sharing your feelings and staying with the facts of those feelings, then people get afraid of that. They kind of back off. So one of the things that you can do in order to do that is, when you find yourself getting emotional, stop, think, and assess, and respond. Stop for a moment. Keep yourself centered for a moment. Breathe. Listen to your breathing. Take a few moments of breathing to bring yourself down. Start to think about, is the way that you're reacting, is it beneficial to your relationship? Is it beneficial to who you are? Is it beneficial to the things that you're trying to accomplish within the relationship? Then assess all the questions that you just asked yourself, and then respond and not react. When you start to do that, you're being a star. And when you're being a star, then everybody stars in the relationship. I hope that this helps somebody to be able to effectively communicate with their partners. I would love to hear exactly how this helped you, or if you have some keys and strategies to be able to help other people to effectively communicate. If you like what I'm doing, please like, comment, and share. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it, so that you can get any of the videos that I upload on a weekly basis. I love you guys for real, and I really hope and pray that you're effectively communicating with your partner and having and creating a healthy and long-lasting relationship. I am Coach Michelamonè, signing off for now. Bye.